I'm Teisha Bader with Shalom TV's news update for Tuesday, July the 1st, 2014. Thousands gathered this evening in Israel to mourn the devastating loss of the 3 yeshiva students who were kidnapped over 2 weeks ago and found murdered yesterday afternoon in Israel. Funerals took place at 5:30 p.m. local time in Israel this evening for 19-year-old Eyal Yifrach, 16-year-old Naftali Frankel, and 16-year-old Gilad Shar, who were kidnapped on June the 12th in the West Bank. The boys' bodies were found yesterday by Israeli security forces and civilian volunteers in a shallow grave in a field north of Hebron, about a 10-minute drive from where they were abducted over 2 weeks ago. Preliminary reports indicate that the boys were likely shot shortly after they were kidnapped. The families of Eyal, Gilad, and Naftali decided to bury the boys together after consulting with their rabbis and the police. The boys were laid to rest side by side this evening in Modi'in. Eulogies for the boys were delivered by Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and by Israeli President Shimon Peres, among others. Israeli security forces were still looking for the 2 suspected Hamas-affiliated kidnappers and killers, Marwan Kawazme and Amar Abu Aisha, both of Hebron. And the IDF today hermetically sealed all entrances and exits to most villages north of Hebron, concerned that the 2 would try and leave the area. Meanwhile, Israeli Air Force jets hit over 30 terror targets in Gaza in response to a barrage of rocket attacks on Israel last night and this morning, which followed a slew of rockets fired into Israel over the last few days. About 8 rockets were fired from Gaza into southern Israel since midnight last night. All fell in open areas. No damage or injury was caused. Yesterday, at least 15 rockets fell in the area, causing some damage to a few homes in the western Negev. And over the weekend, approximately 10 rockets were fired from Gaza. Most of them landed in open areas as well. However, 1 rocket did make a direct hit on a plastics factory in Sderot Saturday night, which caused it to go up in flames, and 4 people were lightly injured. Israel's Air Force retaliated over the weekend for those attacks, and Hamas operative Mohammed Zaid Abid was killed in one of the airstrikes, moments before his rocket-launching cell planned to fire more rockets into Israel. Israel's cabinet held an emergency meeting last night in the wake of finding the murdered boys. Prime Minister Netanyahu addressed the meeting where he said that Hamas would pay for the murders. He said, "Our hearts bleed and the entire country is weeping along with the families of the boys." The meeting discussed how Israel planned to respond to the murders, and it was decided to delay that decision until after the boys were laid to rest today. The cabinet plans to reconvene tonight. Israel's President Shimon Peres addressed the discovery of the 3 boys' bodies. He said yesterday that alongside the deep mourning, we remain determined to bring down an iron fist on the criminal terrorists. Peres had met this weekend with United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, urging the international community to condemn the kidnapping of the boys and to stand up against terrorism. U.S. President Barack Obama expressed his condolences to the families of the boys and to the people of Israel. The White House released a statement from the president last night where he said that as a father, he could not imagine the indescribable pain that the parents of the boys were going through. Obama said the United States condemns in the strongest possible terms this senseless act of terror against innocent youth. He said, "From the outset, I have offered our full support to Israel and the Palestinian Authority to find the perpetrators of this crime and bring them to justice. And I encourage Israel and the Palestinian Authority to continue working together in that effort." The president added that as the Israeli people deal with this tragedy, they have the full support and friendship of the United States. And as vigils were held across Israel last night, the Jewish community here in the U.S. is expressing their horror and grief in the wake of the murders alongside the people of Israel. Last night, several hundred gathered outside of the Israeli consulate in New York City with Israeli flags to show their support for the slain boys. The group then marched to the Isaiah Peace Wall directly across from UN headquarters. Rabbi Avi Weiss of the Hebrew Institute of Riverdale told the crowd, "Our hearts are broken, our hearts are shattered, and all of the United Nations must speak out." Jewish organizations and leaders are expressing their outrage and sadness over the murders. And tonight, New Yorkers, elected officials, and community leaders will gather at the Jewish Center on 86th Street in New York City to mourn the boys. Representatives Charles Rangel, Carolyn Maloney, and Gerald Nadler will join Consul General of Israel in New York, Ido Aharoni, and many others for a community-wide memorial beginning at 7:30. And tonight on Shalom TV, you can join in a live communal expression of support beginning at 6:30 tonight, July the 1st, as we devote our primetime programming to a special evening of solidarity with the people of Israel, honoring the tragic loss of the three boys. Mark Golub will be joined by an array of Jewish leaders who will be responding to the tragedy, and the viewing community of Shalom TV is invited to participate in this live program as well by calling 201-242-1142, by emailing comments to Rabbi Golub at shalomtv.com, or by tweeting at Rabbi Mark S. Golub. And that's Shalom TV's news update for Tuesday, July the 1st, 2014. I'm Teisha Bader.